morning and welcome to The Point. It is Thursday, May 5th, 2022. Thank you to those of you joining us on the GBN, Grenada Broadcasting Network's Facebook page, the Grenada Broadcasting Network's YouTube channel, the website www.gbn.gd, GBN TV channels 7, 11 and 20, and good morning to the listeners of Classic 105.5, 105.9. For those of you on our visual platforms, you would see who my guest is this morning. Joining me in studio is a man of many talents. The one and only Joseph Cadore, JC, is my guest. Let's welcome him in a different seat this morning. Well, hold on, it just occurred to me that you're switching roles this morning. Good morning, Mr. Cadore, and welcome to the program.
Well, good morning to you, Blossom, and good morning to all our listeners, the viewers, wherever you are, those here at home across the region and in other parts of the diaspora. It's indeed a pleasure being here, Blossie.
Thank you. Appreciate it this morning. It was an impromptu arrangement this morning following a cancellation of the guest this morning, but we're going to make it work, and we'll be talking about matters of national importance, all kind of thing. That's a local balance.
No holds barred.
No hold. Lord, heaven help me this morning with my guest. But just before we go into, let's say, more serious matters, let's first talk about King of the Grill. You're one of the stalwarts behind King of the Grill, the Maggie King of the Grill. It's returning this year. Just give us some details about how planning has been going for King of the Grill.
Right. Well, I can safely tell you, Blossom, that the anticipation is ripe. I think after, a 2-year hiatus, 3 years, is it? Yeah. There is an excitement in the air. As you can well appreciate, the Maggie King of the Grill is one of GBN's flagship activity, and certainly it is one that's looked forward to, in that it caters to a wide spectrum. There's a wide audience: children, the young, the old, and it allows just for camaraderie, getting together, fellowship, swallowship, and everything else. The highlight of it is certainly the grilling competition, where grillers from across the island, they get the opportunity to stake their claim on the title of being the king of the grill, and in some cases the queen of the grill. And you can well appreciate that there are some folks, Blossom, I tell you, they come out ready for the judges. They come ready for the judges. No holds barred. They're not leaving anything unturned. And then there are others who just decide, you know what, boy, I'm just in it for the fun of it. But I'm saying planning is going well. Only yesterday, we had a meeting with one of our stakeholders in terms of dotting the I's, crossing the T's, making sure that everybody is on board and on the same page in terms of what's happening to with our corporate sponsors.
Right.
As folks would have seen, you were out 2-3 weeks ago, meeting and meeting the grillers, because you have to understand, Blossom, that barbecuing has become almost past everyday thing for us. It's part of our culture now, and this is how we can appreciate a good oil down. I think most people they have the appetite and appreciation for a good barbecue, and wherever you go, people they get into it for different reasons, whether it's part of the backyard jam. Yeah, you're laughing because a couple of years ago we had one of our winners who came, and yesterday in speaking to one of our sponsors, we highlighted that people come for different reasons, and you're surprised those that they come with it, they bring their creativity with it. We had a year, one of our winners, they literally came with a whole chicken. They had this piece of apparatus that they came with, and they had a whole chicken with a can of beer, and it was on this sort of rotisserie style, and as it heats, it infused the beer, and you get the rich flavor of the beer, and that's the sort of creativity that people come with. The event also makes allowances for vendors. You come, you want to be part of the exercise. So the grillers, and I must say to you that the grilling component is almost, if not totally, sold out already. We're going from at least 15 to 20 grillers, more so 15. If you're out there and you're interested, you better call now and book your spot, because it's going to as hot bread and butter. For the vendors, it is also something in it for you. The day is going to have even events for the children, the bouncing castle, the go-kart racing, and all of those sort of things, Blossom. And I think people are just excited. Come the 4th of June at Monroe's, I'm going to be there. You are going to be there too, Blossom.
Of course,
the whole kitchen kibbutz is going to be there, and we're just waiting for this to unfold.
Coming from a belly. This year as well, we're introducing the karaoke part of the event, which is what I'm looking forward to. I wish I could compete. No, shame.
No, Blasi, no. You see, the problem is that karaoke has evolved over the years. Karaoke was never intended for the professionals like me, right? That's why certainly you'll never hear me carry around my keys. I keep them in my pocket, Blasi. Yeah. But the intention every year is just to add another layer to the competition,
right,
honestly. And I think the addition of the karaoke competition will just lend itself to the entertainment on the evening. One of the challenges we had when we just started planning was how do we deal with the COVID-19 issue as it is.
Right.
And certainly we want to show the public that all steps will be taken to ensure that while the protocols as it is has been lifted, from the ministry's point of view, we at the GBN will seek to ensure that we try at least maintain and encourage folks, not just a King of the Grill, but on a daily basis, the sanitization, there's going to be sanitization stations. We'll be encouraging people as best as possible to socialize, distance themselves while they're social. I kind of wonder how difficult or easy that's going to be. But believe me, it's going to be exciting. The karaoke, we've gotten the permission for the field. We've had conversations with the police, the Ministry of Health. All of that has taken place. All we're waiting on now, Blasi, is to do what we do best. Come to Montrose and put on a masterful event that we know the general public has a really open appetite and waiting for.
And if you want to compete, there's still space. The number to call is
440-2446. You can ask either for Janelle McDonald, myself, and then if all else fails, then ask for Blossom. I know you keep trying to get away, right? You keep trying to get away, but that's not going to happen.
And the email address again is gbnsales?
gbnsales@gmail.com, or you can feel free to send your emails to the easy one to remember, joseph@gbn.gd.
Okay.
Yes, or you just give us a call, 440-2446, 440-3033, extension 238 or 224.
I won't remember the extension numbers, no punch. Just ask for Janelle or Joseph.
Yep.
Notice I didn't put myself in it.
I realize, but that's okay.
All right, Joe, let's get into more serious matters now. I want to start with a discussion about men. That's the overall topic. And I want to zero in on fathership. Over the past years, I was about to say weeks, but years, it has been a growing concern about the roles fathers play in their children's lives. And you being a very active father, I'm sure Jaden more hooked to you than mommy. How serious and important is it you think that men should step up? And what do you think is restricting some of our men from doing so? Well,
first, Blossom, let's deal with the stepping up part. And because as to the factors as to why men don't play that pivotal supporting role that they're supposed to, that would take some more time. But stepping up to the plate, I think very often there is a historical element to it. And men, very often a lot of men, they make, and note I'm saying they make excuses as to why they do not play that role. The traditional role of the father has always been that of the quote-unquote breadwinner. So traditionally, you see yourself as just, I go out, I on the door, I bring in the breads, and I just lay back. That's my role. Mommy's role is to quote-unquote be the nurturer
right,
and all of that. And I understand the history. I understand that. We don't here going to get into the conversation as to who's the head of the home and what's the woman's role and a man's role. What I can say to you is that what has been missing in our society, that we've had a generations that has been lost because a lot of men do not understand and appreciate the role that they play in grooming their children. The mothers naturally, they can be more compassionate naturally, and I'm saying naturally, they tend to be more loving, they express themselves openly. But it doesn't mean that as a man you can't do that. It takes a consciousness to blossom and an awakening in your head that Joseph, I must do this. And I often use myself as an example, and it's not something I'm afraid of, because very often you hear a lot of men, they make the argument, my father was not there for me. So as a result, like seriously? You're going to continue to be a juvenile, be You're a grown man.
Continue the cycle.
You cannot continue the cycle over and over. And at some point in time, you have to say, you know what? I am going to stop this. So remember, for me personally, at a very early age, I resolved in my head, Blossom, everything that my father wasn't to me, that's what I will be to my children. And it's a decision that I had to make. Because if not, I knew years to come, I would have fallen into that revolving door where I'm making excuses because my father did not. So what if he did not? You don't know what his circumstances were. And I'm not trying to make it as though to suggest that is an easy conversation. But it has to take a consciousness. Our boys, our girls, they need us. If as a father, you get into the culture of telling your daughter, I love you, you think we're some little two-timing water-down, whatever he called them, little rogues that's walking around, vagabonds that's walking around with their throat showing off their boxes. I don't need to see your boxes. Says to you, oh, you love me, really? Please. She's used to that. And that's what helps a woman to find, a young lady, to find her identity. Even more so, our men. They need somebody to reassure them, son, you're making the right decision. Son, you're making the wrong decision. Son, all is not lost. Son, you may fall today, but tomorrow there is hope. Somebody's just going to pick them up and sit and say to them, have a conversation with them that says, you know what? You can make a difference in this society. And very often there's a challenge of the revolving door, and you go around and around and around, and then here we blame society. Well, we came from Africa. Please, who came from Africa? I don't even know where I came from, and I'm not interested. I am here, and my role and my responsibility is to make a difference in my child's life. Is it always going to be perfect, Blossom? No. There are days as a father, as a parent, you're going to get it totally wrong. You're going to get it wrong. But for me, I've adopted a style of parenting where I allow myself and Jaden to become best of friends. Talk to me. Jaden, talk to me. What's happening with you? And as you say, if you get the children into that culture, because as they grow, don't think they will automatically draw towards you, you know. You have to make that conscious effort that, listen to me, I'm going to create an impression in my son's life. Is he going to adopt everything? Case in point, I remember the first time he did karate. The child wanted to be a broadcaster. Oh my God. He wants to be like daddy. And thereafter, I asked him the other day, you still want to be a broadcaster? No. But and over the years, he has evolved into trying to find his own space. Who is Jaden? And I think fathers, we have to put ourselves in a position to help our children. Mommy is there, the girlfriend, the wife, whatever role that she plays, the other half is there, and she has a support factor. But there's a reason why God created man and woman, because there's that which you can give to a child that I would not be able to. Mothers, naturally, they have a way of just soothing, warming. But men have to get into the habit. I remember years ago when Jaden was a baby, a young lady met me, and she swore Jaden didn't have a mother. She said she swore, because every morning she sees me dropping him off to daycare. And I'm like, but why? I said, he's my child. And you know what's the argument that I make every day, Blossom? That if you take it from a biological perspective, whose DNA does the child carry?
Not both of us, sir.
Yeah, but which is the predominant gene in the gene?
I don't want to answer that question.
You don't want to answer that. He has both of your genes in him. So what excuse are you making to say, did a child ever ask to come into this world? Nope. The lady that you're with, both of you all agreed as adults to be in a relationship. An innocent child was brought into this world because either somebody couldn't sleep or somebody sleep and wake up and they couldn't go back and sleep. But all I'm saying is that men, the time has come where we need to move away from the rituals and the back and forth about why you can't, and make that decision, make that resolve today. You know what? Today's the day I'm going to start a change. Yesterday's all gone.
But there are men who genuinely believe that the kind of I love you fatherhood would, as they say, make my son soft.
That's not true. It doesn't make him soft. It doesn't make him soft at all. it makes him more of a man. Here's a problem that you hear over time. That a lot of men, boys, they grow up and they get into relationships. And all of a sudden, they find it difficult. And that's why a lot of men find it difficult to connect with the expressions of I love you or I care. Because here's what has happened from time immemorial. And here we get to where the problem has started. Little boys are made of what? And we've sung the song all the years. Little girls are made of sugar and spice and everything nice. Little boys are made of what? Whatever,
snails and puppy dog tails and something so.
A little girl falls, and what do? You pick her up. Oh my God, my little baby! He falls. Get up, get up. Mentally, you are teaching that child not to express his emotions. It's okay, Blossom, for Andy to cry. But I would have a problem if Andy's crying if he hears a song downstairs and he's in the back of the bed saying, Blossom, go afraid. A woman has no problem, Blossom. And ask them. And if I ask you, women have no problem in getting a man that is not afraid to express his emotions. When he hurts, say, honey, I'm hurting.
Yeah. I
And
agree.
something is bothering me. But in the same token, she wants that man as well to be when he needs to. The Bible says there's a time and a place for everything. There's a time to be the macho, you can't stop me. And there's a time to be the real man that says, you know what, I am hurting. And your wife, girlfriend will be so much more supporting. You know, it's a problem because very often you hear women say, well, how are you? Are good. They get nothing out of us. So things are happening to us. We dying on the inside. We cannot fulfill that financial role as head of the home because we figure it's my job to provide. But if you say to the woman, listen, baby, X, Y, and Z, she may just willing to say, okay, because I don't know what you all are doing with the money, you know. You all have it stashed away there. You might then realize she's saying to you, listen, Joe, you know what? I'm going to pay this one. And all of a sudden, you as a man, you can breathe a bit easier because you realize that you are less focused on trying to fulfill that so-called role that you think you have to fulfill in your head. And when, in fact, what you need to be, it's a partner. It's a relationship. The question is, how do we do it? Open up some more. Talk. But the question is, make sure you're opening up to the right person at the right time and in the right place, Blossom.
Somebody on Facebook says some do need parenting classes, as some never had the experience of growing up in a loving family. Do you think parenting classes would help, or is just if you're not mentally ready, then it doesn't make a difference?
I think there's a need for support, whether it's formally or informally. There is a need for support. There's some things, some of us have this natural awakening in us. We awaken our senses, I have to do this. Others, somebody have to sit and say to you, you know what, you've got it wrong all your life. Because there's some men who in the back of their minds, they are dead bound and convince themselves that what they've been taught all their life is the right thing. And sometimes you cannot blame them. What I would blame them for is not willing to be an element of change in their lives. Somebody, you're looking around, you recognize your children are there going downhill. You go to PTA, who you seeing? Mommy alone. You go to wherever graduations, mommy alone. And you know what's a heart-rending thing, Blossom? When these very children, they grow up, hear them, oh, that's my son, you know. He working in GVN. Oh, that's my daughter, oh, Blossom. That's my big girl. But you don't give her a penny all her life. But why now you figure, now that the hard work has passed and she's blossomed into who she is now, you want to take accolade for it? No, stay where you are with your miserable life. No, it's not the time. They don't need you. Children, they need their parents when they're at an age of dependency. Once they've gone past 18, listen, if you get anything from them thereafter, God bless you. But you need to be here, right now. If you're not certain, ask for help. Try. Make an effort. You may not get it right. And it's not about being perfect at parenthood, because there's no formula that says you're perfect. What may work for you, Blossom, may not work for me.
Which brings me to another point, because there are some men who, okay, let's say girlfriend, fiance, wife is pregnant. They didn't play a role in the first 2-3 years, but after a while they say, you know what, it's time.
Step up.
Joseph is to step up, but they don't know how. They don't know the first step to stepping up. What advice would you give them?
Start with the very simple things. Don't try to mix your involvement with the woman and your involvement with the child or children. Because very often, a lot of men, what they try to do, they try to use the woman as a pawn in the game. In order to get to my children, oh, you must be in a relationship with me. No, she doesn't have to be. She doesn't have to be. You're a little miserable, you sitting there and watching some other man mind your child and you're comfortable with it. Start with the very simple things, but first it starts with you on the inside. Because Blossom, you cannot try to change the world if you as an individual have not gotten to a point where you've turned around your dynamics. You've changed your own status quo. Coming to a point of realizing, you know what? I've gotten it wrong. And if you're truly sorry, there might be a bit of resistance from the start. But at some point in time, people would say, you know what? He made an effort. The child, there are things that a child needs. Don't wait until the court tells you you have to pay $150, which I find the court, God, don't let me get there. Why do you have to wait for the judge to tell you, pay your child $150 a month? Like, seriously? Do the small things. Be there for your child. Visit. Stop off. But don't try to hijack it as though you figure, because you have to appreciate the child may be a little bit resistant at first because it's not something that they're used to. But find a way, if not through the mother, through the grandparents, through the auntie. But start with very little things. You know, the child has to go to school. She need books. She need clothes. It's not if a child has to eat. A mother doesn't have to call you and tell you, you little rat. Did I say that or not?
You did.
Sorry. I told you, Blossom. You'll make me get all out. Yeah? So a mother doesn't have to tell you, Joe, Andy, Beckham, whoever you are. Yeah, Beckham, yeah. The child needs milk. You have to know that. The child needs Pampers. The child is going to school. So start with those very little steps. Tiny steps. Show that you're interested. And when you call, it must not be to call just to ask, how the child doing? But it's a call to say, I am coming to drop this for the child. I'm coming to spend 5-10 minutes with my child. And both parties must be mature to deal with the issues. The issue of our children, our child, is separate and apart to what's going on in our lives or not going on as adults. Separate the two if you can. If you can't, then find a way to connect with your child. There must be somebody in that family that actually still has feelings, that still like you. You couldn't have been that bad all the while.
You never know.
You couldn't be that bad all the while.
Know.
But start tiny steps and see what, this may not work today, but I'm saying it's something you have to be committed to. Try something else.
But there are some women, whether it be mothers, even the grandparents, auntie, uncle, sister, that would discourage the man. Or not in words, but their behavior is discouraging to the man. And a lot of men are turned off by that when they have as they say, a baby mama. There's always quarreling, always complaining. Sometimes you feel like you don't want to be in that space, and in the end, the child suffers.
And I'm just saying, I want to say good morning to my old pal, Dobie said. And he's saying here, and as we're saying, as a father, the first thing is to make a connection. Start it. That's all it takes. You know that song we sang years ago? It only takes a spark to get the fire going. The same way you met the woman, little things. Start with the simple things. Start with the simple things. You may not get it right, and don't try to figure it's going to happen overnight. Parents, grandparents, do they discourage? Yes, because they themselves, they are more taken up in their own emotional and whatever is in it for them, emotional issues.
And how it affected them.
How it's affecting them. Oh, you leave my daughter. No. I thought you was a good man. Well, you thought wrong. You crucified Christ. So what makes you think that little rogue that you saw that looked like a prince, he turned out to be an angel in disguise? You're so that disappointed? You've not followed history at all, have you, Granny? He ain't the first. He ain't going to be the last. He turned out to be he's one of a kind. But all we have to do, separate the issues, Blossom. And I'm saying, this is about a child. It's about a child. Because, Granny, you need to understand, 10 years from now, you're not going to be here. That child is no longer going to be 5. She's going to be here. She's going to be 15, and she would have been they would have been brought up in a culture where there's no love, and that's just a lot of men and women. They grew up feeling so unloved. while they want it. And a lot of children will tell you, they are yearning for it. That's why as they grow up, what happens, Blossom? Because they're not getting the love that they need from the home. Mm-hmm. They gravitate to somebody on the outside. So the girl, your daughter, finds friends, a boyfriend who expresses what she sees, and because she has never been shown real love, anything that looks like it, oh my God. You remember the days when Andy started picking leaf on the side of the road?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, don't you lie to me. Don't you lie to me.
Somebody on Facebook says, love is not saying a word, it is doing words. Yes, all children need their father, but some women do not allow the men to be fathers. They think they can do it all on their own, and they bad talk the men in front of the child. The child gets mixed up between the mother and the father's business. That's another thing some women do. Bad talk daddy in front of the children, and it's a lot of times they as in the mother probably feel good, let them know the kind of man their father is, but they don't check on the hurt that they're causing their children.
And most times it is more painful. Listen, and it comes back to them being selfish, because what is it that's happening in their Blossom? They're still trying to deal with the hurt, the pain, the agony
of whatever it was,
of whatever transpired between themselves and this individual. Mm-hmm. I invested 10 years in him. I put this on hold for him. I bore him 2 or 3 children, and here he is. He walked out on me. And you're going to have your own pain to deal with. But you have to ask yourself the question as a woman, and the man has to ask himself the question as a man. Which is more important? Is it a past relationship that's over and done with?
Or a future relationship. My child or children.
That my child or children is going to have. What is the rule? What's the legacy? And you hear our politicians today, you hear them talk about it. What is the legacy? I hope that's to give a hint where I want to go next, right? I hope you ain't missing it,
On that note,
what is the legacy that you want that your children to have? Not just to hear of you, but to know that my daddy, he wasn't perfect, but he loved me. He tried.
Let me go to this caller. Good morning, caller. Okay, that caller left. Sounded like a child crying in the background. Joe, let's take a break. And when we come back, we're going to change the conversation a little bit. Temper your thoughts, eh? Temper your thoughts.
Well tempered.
Right? Take it. Hold on, wait. Let me read some WhatsApp comments before we move on to another topic. Somebody on WhatsApp says, no one can stop you from reaching out and being there for your child if you really want to. Very flimsy excuse. It depends, eh? It really depends on the person on the other end, because a lot of children, they don't have cell phones to say, let me call Johnny Jr. direct.
Who doesn't have cell phones?
He's 3. He's 3 years old. He isn't going to have cell phones, so I had to call Mommy Mary to speak to Johnny Jr. But when I called Mary doesn't answer the phone or something like that. So it's especially when it's a young child. You see,
right,
older primary school, secondary school children, then you can maybe communicate on your own. But when the child is a young child, it could be difficult according to who's on the other end. Mm-hmm. Somebody else on WhatsApp says, sometimes some of our fathers are too lazy and don't want to support their children. They can do better. Yeah, it's just easier to say,
she don't want me to do it. She pushing me away.
Somebody says, I have a daughter who is not well. She has a son who is autistic. His father is not taking care of him, not even to bring him on the beach. It's hard on me as a grandmother. He brings $100 every 3 months or sometimes 4 months, so it's $1.01 a day. It's laughable. He is now married again, walking about with his stepson. God will deal with him. I want the public to know some of the quality of men we have in Grenada. Young ladies, listen to the warnings of your parents.
And that's an excellent point that's made there, And it makes you wonder what is or isn't happening. Who's at fault here? Because your very child, you have abandoned. You've left all alone. And you've now assumed the role of fatherhood to another child. And which is okay.
Exactly.
Which is okay. But however, your blood... And it only shows also that woman that he's married to. And nobody's getting away from it. Because you're going to tell me, you pick up a man. He is fathering, being the best, quote unquote, to your children. And you know that he has another child somewhere that he has left to the wind and to the elements. Then as a woman, if you're truly that woman that you assume that you are, or we think that you are, you should say to that man, listen, Joe, come on.
But it depends on the story he fed her.
Does she want to know the truth, though?
Yeah, but for all I know is he's telling me the truth. Either the mother don't want me to take part in his life, or that is not my child. She just tell people that is not my child. You never know the story hubby fed the wife about baby mama.
But in Little Grenada, if a woman wants to know, believe me, if she really wants to know the truth, she's going to find out.
Ooh, this person hitting hard, boy. Somebody says, what about fathers who abandon their family but minding other people own, treating other people's children how he's supposed to treat his, and his children are struggling. His children wants his attention and he's giving other people own all his. What about them fathers day? Dog men, you call them. Useless, dirty dogs.
What's a tune from me? From Beanie. Old dog like you.
That one hitting hard.
And it is the truth. And it begs the question, what's happening upstairs? Mm-hmm. Is it that it's easier in the new relationship because the woman is there and she is doing what she has to do financially, emotionally? So for you just tagging along.
Maybe the responsibility is not as heavy being stepdaddy.
You're a stepdad, because very often maybe the children, they probably already have a established relationship with their father who's playing the role. So for you, I'm just here for the ride.
Yeah,
I'm just going to get a little airbrush and polish the edges at the end, but deep inside, there's cracks and holes. Listen, Blossom, let's take the break. I want to drink some water and mind my business right now. Because
sip some water. Let me read some WhatsApp comments. Somebody said, a lot of people fail to realize men, especially their children, don't always need material things, just love and attention. Because you could be a part of your child and still not be a good parent. True that.
A hug.
Sometimes a hug is better than buying a blanket.
Listen, Blossom, every day as a rule, I tell Jaden, I love you. As a rule. Mm-hmm. As a rule. There's this thing about telling your boys that you love them, and you have this, I don't know, this notion that they're going to turn it wrong. These are the boys that turn out, when you don't express love to them, they start getting girl children and treat them like animals. Mm-hmm. Because they don't know how to show and return affection. So you try to hug them, and it's like, what is wrong? Give them a hug.
Amen.
Let them know that when they meet their boys, what do? They bounce chest, they embrace. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Do the same thing.
Do the same thing with your son. I agree. Do the same thing with your son.
Good morning, caller.
Yeah, good morning, Miss Blossom.
Morning.
That topic is very rich, and I would like to get a copy of that.
The program is available on the Facebook page and the YouTube channel. Anytime you need to review it.
YouTube channel. But can you give me the link?
It's GBN Production YouTube channel, or just go onto the GBN Grenada Broadcasting Network's Facebook page.
All right, thank you.
No problem. Thank you very much. GCV and Ting May.
You sound surprised.
Another WhatsApper says, my children's father left me with 3 young children, but took care of the stepchildren with pride. I guess it's easier for him to play stepdaddy.
No. What's happening there, Blossom, is that's his way of trying to get back at the woman.
That too.
And that's what happens in a lot of the cases. Selfishness, not prioritizing. She broke my heart. She left me. So as a result, I've known of men. I've known of friends that they'll tell me the child father is saying to them, the child needs shoes. Yeah, but you had to.
Yeah.
I ain't minding about your hat.
Yeah.
No, you don't have to. You don't have to. And a lot of women, they encourage it because they figure, I have a rule and I tell people, listen, I grew up, Blossom. They all grow up.
Amen.
They grow up, one at a time.
And eventually they're going to see.
They'll see him for what he really is. Rogue, vagabond, bastard. Sorry, that was just a cough.
A Facebooker says, I can't stand Joseph for that. A Facebooker says, the memories about raising your kids are so wonderful to talk about after they are grown up. I tease them about the things they did as kids, and we all laugh. That's true. The memories live on forever. They grow up fast, but
they grow
the memories
fast.
Stay. Yeah.
I was showing Jaden pictures of him, and there was a song that was playing the other day, Little Einstein, and he started singing it. He's 10. He's at 11. He started singing. I was like, where do I know that song? Because we used to sing it together as a baby. And then we started watching photos, and like, that's me. But those are things that helps to enrich your life, Blossom. And as men, you would realize if we take the time, it allows us to detox. Children, they're a beauty.
They're joys.
They're a joy.
Yeah.
I mean, I see people abuse. Do they drive you up a wall?
I don't know.
Sometimes, Blossom, when that little boy starts to get on, I start asking as if I didn't know better. Child, I would swear that. And then he does something, and you start going, oh, that's my boy. That's my boy. Listen, take the glory you get, the glorious days, and hold on to it for the days when you feel as pulling out your hair. You see it.
And it's good memories for them as well, because years down the line, he's going to remember Daddy brought me on the beach and we played, and me and Daddy used to sing Einstein's song. So it's
we roll on the ground, we ramp, you climb back, and you'll be surprised. I had a good last evening. A friend of mine, growing, she has 2 kids now, was telling me we're talking about fathers, and she says she remembers a child jumping on her father's back. When he stand up, she hung onto his back. She's a grown woman living her own life. But she sat down and she started going, wow, I had some wonderful time with my fathers. And those are the sort of things that helps to develop an individual into the person and the character that they eventually turn out to be.
Big facts, JC. On that note, let's take a break. We're going to come back inside with some more discussions right here on To The Point. Keep it locked. Classic 105 and GBN.
Mr. Mentioned the wing high, then you have things like man, you must come back, We have the low folder.
It is kind of like the same man, and it's just different name for the same kind of thing.
And last but not least, I just want to say to all the men who saw me, call me, and ask for piece of cake. I'm baking this weekend.
Join us Fridays at 8 on GBN Television, K105 FM, GBN's Facebook page, and YouTube channel for We Culture.
Welcome back to The Point. Speaking with the one and only JC Joseph Cadore. This morning we started talking about fatherhood. Before we move on, there's a comment on... Okay, first let me give you this one. Kudos to you. I love JC's approach to fatherhood. I've been divorced for 10 years in another Caribbean island, but there was no decision made for their progress without us both conversing. I agree. It takes 2 people. So somebody loves your approach to fatherhood. But this comment is what I wanted to read on Facebook. Somebody says there are some good young fathers out there who have been doing much better than their young mothers. Not all men that are bad. We find it both ways, different experiences. And I agree. There are some fathers, young, middle-aged, elderly, who are fathers.
And you know, Blossom, and I agree with the caller, and we've seen a shift. We have seen a shift, a cultural shift, where more men, and I'm happy when I go in the street and I see a young man holding his child, and he's being daddy. I stop them.
Mommy holding the bag.
Mommy's holding the bag, and he's holding on the baby, and he's playing. I stop them and I say, bro, I'm not sure if you're just posing for today, but pose a bit longer. Pose a bit longer. And yes, there is a shift. But yes, while there is a shift, it is not okay to say, yeah, they're trying. It has to go beyond just trying on any given day. It has to be a culture that must be inculcated and further enhanced, that at least we can address some of the social ills that we see playing itself out in our society. Young men angry and vexed. Why are you vexed? I don't know why you're vexed. And then you find out it's because they've been vexed since they're a child. Because what? Longing for the love of their father, and they can't. But now they become a man, they figure they want to bully the world. No.
Which brings us to something that a lot of people had opinions about earlier this year, youth violence. There were a lot of videos circulating of fights and confrontations with our young men in town, in communities, and I'm wondering how much that violent streak among our young children, because there are girls who do it as well, how much of that depends on the role mommy and daddy plays in my life?
It plays a significant role, and I know the last spat of violence has been thrown squarely at the feet of COVID. And I agree, yes, the last 2 years, it has been difficult for each and every one of us. But what the last 2 years has done is expose Blossom, the loneliness that is being expressed and experienced by a lot of adults and even most of the children. So one of the ways we mask our insecurities is by trying to keep busy. Yeah? We keep busy. So I'm going to work. I don't have to think about it. And a lot of men, we do it. We all do it. We keep busy. But for the last 2 years, we found ourselves, the veil has been removed. There's no walk, there's no this. You can't go by the boys. You can't go in the shop. You can't go in the shop. You can't go downtown. So you left home now, and to do what? To deal with the frustration that you're just there. The children, they're just there. And what has happened now, it gives you time to think and reflect on your own life. Where is my life going? So for the children, there is the obvious absence of that father figure, the absence of a lot of things, maybe even the role of the mother in their lives. And now it starts to act out. Anger. What children do from a very early age when they're wet?
Cry.
They cry. They're upset. When they're hungry, what do?
Cry.
They cry. So from very early age, we've been learned when we're in a state of discomfort, we cry out. How do we cry out? Maybe a different thing. Some of us, you may say, hey, Blossom girl, I need help. Others may come with this forceful, authoritative, I'm the boss, macho man thing. I need help. And they're angry at the world. And you always realize they always tend to be angry, not at their parents, They're angry at an authoritative figure.
Yep.
They're angry at the teacher in school. Somebody that they see as being the authority, that should be the replacement, that's helped them to lead them. And that's their way of saying, I need help. And the longer it goes unchecked, the worse it becomes. They then disrespect police. Well, they reach a point now, they have no respect at home. So it starts to play out. But the fear that I have, though, Blossom, is that we are going to blame COVID. It's not COVID.
COVID getting blamed for everything.
COVID was the unveiling of that which has been there for the last 10, 15, 20 years.
True.
Left alone, have nothing to do. It now starts to surface, as with everything is. Volcano sits there, seemingly dormant.
Until it's ready.
All of a sudden, you hear, you see, get a little tremor. That's when he seems to act up. He starts to get rude. No, he ain't rude. He rude. He's an expressive one. He has to learn how to express himself. Not because you're angry doesn't mean that you have to snap at your mother and snap at the teacher. I'd say to Jaden, listen to me, express yourself. But there's a cutoff point from being expressive and being disrespectful. And you have to teach them that quite early.
Exactly. And somebody on WhatsApp is raising a good point. No, hold on. Let me take this caller. We haven't heard much callers. Let me take the caller. Good morning, caller.
Good morning, Blossom and Joseph.
Good morning.
Wow, very good program. But I still want to add that a lot of times when people reach in the stages that Joe described and the different circumstances and situations, there is a spirit behind these things. Whether we want to believe it or not, a lot of people are influenced by evil spirits. And they are what they are, not because that's who they are, but that's who the spirit is. And the spirit is acting out in them because the spirit lives in them. Now, you may not want to believe or understand or accept this, but I have listened to people who got delivered, because that's the kind of things I listen to most of the time. And you hear what the entities in these people say. And when they are delivered, they are totally different people. I listened to one where a man used to beat his children, beat his wife, and do all kinds of things. Eventually, the man had something in him called a spiritual wife. And that spiritual wife caused havoc in the home and hated the children. And the father is who they see, hating them and advantaging them. When this man got delivered, that man cried for days because he didn't know, he thought it was him. But it was the entity living in him that was living out his life, not him. And a lot of times we don't understand there are spiritual beings that are occupying people's bodies, and you think it's a person. At that time they're dead. Some people, when they get delivered, they can't believe that they were what they used to be. They can't believe that was me, And sometimes, they just give God thanks and praise for delivering them, and their life becomes totally different.
Thank you very much.
We need to recognize our spirituality. We need to recognize there are demon forces out there, and a lot of people are influenced by demons, and they don't know. And Lord, sorry for us. We don't have pastors who recognize these things and who can know and help these people to get delivered.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that.
And I agree. There are forces in this life, and life must be taken in a balance. Mm-hmm. There are individuals who may have, because everything in this life, there is a spiritual component to it. But that being said, we'll deal with what needs a spiritual remedy. We'll apply a spiritual remedy to it. There's sometimes when your children start to go awry, you know what to say? In the name, I start praying. Listen to me. Because the very Bible that we quote says, Blossom, train up a child in the way that he should grow. The Bible talks about the rod of correction. Beat the child. Don't abuse him. Don't get me wrong. Because I'm not a child. I'm not a daddy that's into beating. I talk.
You use a base.
I talk, and we reason. Let's have a conversation, baby boy. Why did you do that? And you will be surprised, Blossom. I'll give you a case in point. I'll make it short. Jaden, he was 4 or 5. Got a call a day. Mother, come and get Jaden. Okay, what happens? Go to school. They said Jaden took his puff. He used to have respiratory challenges, and he sprayed it in a child's mouth. The child's parent, getting all historical, I have to bring my child to the doctor, he will kill my child. Blossom, make it short. I went, picked him up, it was after 3. Jaden and I went to town, we went to got a drink, we went home, he had a shower, he did his homework, yada yada. Around 8 o'clock in the evening, baby boy, as I called him, Angel, what happened? He says, Daddy, you've always said to me, when I feel as though I'm know my signs and symptoms of an asthma attack. He says he's there. He always has his puff. He sees the child go, in his mind as a 5-year-old, he's thinking This child is going to have an asthma attack. If he doesn't get a puff, he's going to die. So in the innocence of his life, he gives him what you wanted me to do right there and then. They were telling me to murder him right there and then.
So in his mind, he was saving a life.
And you see certain wise children, they end up developing ill feelings towards their parents because we're always quick to murder our children because we figure, hey, how Blossom go feel? Lord, if I don't be Jayton, what Miss Campbell gonna say, Lord? What Janet gonna say? Maybe I'm not a good parent. And there are times when you have to scold your children openly, but not to please anybody else. It must be because you determine that it is necessary, and it's not just scolding them openly. It's how it is done. Don't try to embarrass them publicly.
Yeah.
Don't do that. Don't.
I've seen parents like the child in public and the child doing something and they see they get the child too busy, slap, or they hold the child and they drag the child because the child not walking fast enough. And I'm like, all right, it's a child,
But Blossom,
stand by yourself.
The child is only acting out that way in public because he or she is used to acting out that way privately. Children, I agree, they do try to pull a fast one on you, eh? But Blossom, as soon as I say, you don't have to speak. As you give them the eye, Jaden, back in line.
Yeah, you just had to give them that. You have to train them with eye.
Yeah, because they know it. Those that go on perpetually because they are used to getting away with it, but no, because it's happening publicly now. You feel embarrassed. Yeah, so no, you want to rag up the child. But he ain't taking bait.
Because you know that's not what happen home.
That don't happen home.
A comment on WhatsApp I wanted to read. Somebody said, a middle-aged man listened to a group of men complaining that so much is done for mothers on Mother's Day, but it's not the same for fathers on Father's Day. His comment to them was, I took care of my children when they were growing up, and every Father's Day they make me feel like a king. It's no different from me than it is for Mother's Day. He advised them to go and be the father that they are.
I agree 100%. I agree 100%. The same way I say to people, you don't have to wait until Mother's Day to show expressions of love. Any father that is waiting for Father's Day, for your child to come and say to you, Daddy, I love you, is because you've been wanting. You have been weighed, measured, and found wanting. If there is that relationship between you and your child, even if Father's Day comes and your child didn't call you, the back of your mind is saying, you know what, he's going to call tomorrow. And if you need one day for that sense of self-glorification as a rites of passage to your manhood on Father's Day, your child goes to church with you, for that one day you feel empowered, then Daddy, Mister, you are missing it and you have it all wrong. Every day is Mother's Day. Every day should be a day when you express to that child and then they would reciprocate. If you're not showing love and expression to that woman or to that child, it's like in any relationship, plus. If Andy's stepping up, after a while, you will say, hey, he ain't buying me nothing for my birthday. You know what?
He ain't getting nothing.
That for you. And I'm not saying it's the right thing, but naturally that's what happens. You may do it, but after a while they tell us, you know what? I'm not trying anymore. If you're used to showing expressions of love, and you might be surprised, simple things. Last year, Jaden, he did origami, and the child he asked me for $20. What do you want $20 to do? He took the $20 and he folded into a nice little tie. He said, Daddy, happy Father's Day.
Aww.
Am I the king of the hill or what? But it's an everyday thing.
Yeah.
And it goes not just when it comes to fatherhood, but to our lives on a whole. You only get into it what you invest. There are times, though, where you might make some bad investments. But what do you do then as a businessman? You invest into something. You recognize that didn't work. What do? You stop, you rethink, and you re-strategize. Because some things, Blossy, it's not that it doesn't work, or didn't work. Some things have a lifespan. And some parents, fathers, what they're trying to do is what they offer to their child when the child is 3 and 4. They haven't recognized that he's no longer a little baby again. He's not a little baby. Not like Pikachu and Pukanani again. No. They will start telling you, Daddy, I'm a big boy now. So you have to start understanding that trying to treat them as a baby It's not going to help. It would only distance you from them. You have to grow with them and take them along that journey. As they grow, you change your attitude, what you do, how you do, when and why you do what you do. It's a process.
A good point on Facebook. Somebody says, men never bring themselves into this world. Training starts in the womb. The woman brought a boy and a girl in the world. She teaches the girl child and leave the boy child to do what he wants. Never teach him how to take care of a woman. You guys are beating up on the boy child you didn't train.
And I agree, but we made that point earlier, Blossom, that yes, while there are things that you've missed as a child, when you become an adult, you have to make a conscious decision. And I agree with the point that the caller is making, and we hinted to that earlier on, how the role that parents, women, because study has argued that women become their own worst enemy. So they have their girl child, hey, madam, be inside by 6. And then you hear them at 9 o'clock, hey, my cock outside, hold on your hand. But their girl child inside, eh? So they are telling their young men it is okay to gallivant. When he gets married, what's going to happen? When he becomes an adult, you know what? All he's doing is gallivanting. And his wife is supposed to be inside. But he doing what? Trying to sow royal oats? Madam. And then you're wondering now, listen, you create your monster. And then you marry him off for some girl child to take the headache.
And then she's saying, she ain't treating my son properly. But it's the son you gave up to her.
And then mothers, I'll say to you, encourage your children your boys in particular, at a very early age to take responsibility for their lives and have a measure of independence. Teach them to wash, cook, clean. We grew up in this culture where those are feminine. You don't want your boys and them see you hanging on the clothes. So there, as soon as you see them, you put it back and you hang on with the friends. No. Those are qualities that a lot of women, they are dying for. Don't miss the point that there's some women out there, they bad, you know. But there are some that good, you know. But I'm saying is, as a man, you have to come with some softer qualities. You hear we talk about in the education system, children, they graduate. Academically, they're brilliant, but they miss what they're missing, the education minister says, those soft skills. When they come in the workplace, they don't know how to
clean up your desk, sweep the newsroom just because.
How to understand that you're working with a team. Very same way, you have to teach your boys and girls those softer skills. Soft answer turn away wrath. If you get used to shouting to your children, you know what's going to happen?
They'll shout back?
They will start shouting back at people. And not just that. So the boys would shout, and if you don't shout for them, or the girls will start thinking, well, he ain't serious, he had to shout for me. And then, no. Nobody has to shout for anybody. We should be able to appreciate and understand each other. Let's communicate. And while we're on communication is a different field altogether. Because the truth is, what I may appreciate, you may not appreciate. But I'm saying it's all about making an effort to change the status quo. What happened yesterday, Blossy, is gone. We're here today, and let's think about tomorrow.
All right, it has one person say, amen, brother, well said. I really wanted us to touch on Election Watch. We out of time, but just briefly mention for us. The GBN, we started a new program here as we get deep into the election mode called Election Watch, hosted by the one and only JC on Wednesdays.
What we're not attempting, what we're attempting to, and we are doing, is to expose the issues. Right, agitate the conversation. There's a lot that happens, and a lot of people, they don't know because it has never been discussed. And as we get ready to go to the polls, the program is not intended to tell you who to vote and who not to vote for, but we are discussing the issues and how they affect us. The issue of education, poverty, our future. The other week we were talking about pension. What are the issues? How they affect us? So what we do, we get the movers and shakers and get them to share their perspective. And what we attempt to do is to keep the language very simple. We're not getting over your head. We keep it very simple, and we giving it a conversation to the people. So every week we go out, find individuals. Last night we had the leader of Her Majesty's opposition, Tobias Clement. We also had Senator Gludd, and we had NDC's representative for St. Patrick West. Let's do it. Joseph Handel. Joseph Handel. And what is it? Yes, the individuals that they're trying to put forward their argument, but for us, it's about keeping a balance so that when we go to the polls, Blossom, we make an educated, objective decision. I am not going to vote for X or Y because, well, somebody say he's a good man. Last night we were looking at governance, leadership. What makes us, and it's interesting that while most people agree that qualities like honesty and integrity and all those the likes are what makes good leaders, Blossom, we realize that
they don't make good politicians.
Well, people that puts themselves up for political offering. When you do look at what happens in the political sphere, honesty, integrity becomes second nature because politics seems to have a morality of its own. So how do I decide whom I should vote for? Do we vote along party lines? We're not here to say. All we say is that as Grenadians, we need to become mature as a people and discuss the issues objectively. We should be able to say, you know what? I disagree with you, Blossom, but Blossom should not be a case where you figure I have something personal against you. Let's use the program that allowing us to grow, to mature as a people, being able to discuss the issue openly and objectively.
Somebody says, Joseph is the best for Election Watch. I enjoy it. So there's a fan. Good morning, Doslin, and keep tuning into Election Watch. Wednesdays at 8:30?
8 o'clock.
8 o'clock.
We've gone
live. Thank you very much, JC. Wonderful discussion. And thank you.
That's $300.
Talk to Mrs. Campbell. Thank you, viewers and listeners, for tuning in to The Point. Always appreciate your listenership and your viewership. I'm making way now for GT to come in here for mid-morning buzz. I'll be back tomorrow morning, God willing. Continue to stay safe, observe your personal COVID-19 protocols, and enjoy the rest of your thankful Thursday.